Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and I would like to call the REDCO board meeting for September 17th to order. We do have a quorum, and I will start with request for approval of the minutes. Where are they here? Here. Minutes of the special board meeting that was held on September 14th.
I move.
Dealt with one item at that board meeting, and that was the approval of the bylaws amended.
I move we approve the minutes.
Okay, there's one motion to approve and a second by Keith. Are there any questions or discussion about the minutes from that meeting? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, the minutes of the 14th September meeting are approved. Now we move forward with September 17th board meeting. As you know, there is one item on the agenda for this board meeting, and it deals with the strategic plan. Before we start that discussion, I wanted to give the CEO the floor for a moment. He wanted to talk about staff.
Well, I'm gonna just introduce Scott Hollenbeck. He's been hired as a marketing director. Scott's been with us, I believe, for about 2.5 weeks now.
A little louder.
And
Yeah, we're having a hard time hearing you.
can you hear me now?
A little bit better, yes.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Yes.
A little louder. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going on with these. So Scott's been on for about 2.5 weeks. He's our marketing director and has already hit the ground running. He's going to help us deliver our message and help us with our sophistication and abilities to raise money. He's not the development director. You know, we left that as a separate position,
Right.
but he's going to help us communicate our message. So Scott, why don't you take a couple minutes and want you talk about your experience and what you've been doing for the last 2.5 weeks.
Sure. And thanks, Bea. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So first of all, thank you for granting me the opportunity to get to meet you. Dana, you and I met last week, and thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I'm what's referred to as an omni-channel marketer. I have worked both on the agency side as well as the corporate side. And I have worked in both capacities, growing organizations to create demand generation, increase brand awareness, drive, lead sales, revenue. And, ultimately when I was on the corporate side to drive shareholder value. So I am a native of Rochester. And an East High graduate as well as an RIT graduate. Moved, that's right. I moved away twice. I've lived in Florida and Manhattan and moved back to Rochester for both business and family reasons. But Rochester is my home. When I saw the opportunity at REDCO, I owned my own advertising agency at the time. I had left. My last corporate position was director of marketing for the Americas for CooperVision. I left that position and formed my own agency. And but I can say that one of the things I've always wanted to do is to start give back to the Rochester community, particularly when it comes to growth of commerce. Had an opportunity to spend time at RIT with the Simone Center and Richard D. Martino and his group of coaches. I've worked with a number of his students and particularly in the entrepreneurial space. So it's been a passion of mine, and to be able to combine that with the marketing background was a great opportunity. So when I saw the position for REDCO, it was a, well, for lack of better terms, it was a no-brainer. I applied right away. So looking forward to getting to know all of you. Our charter is pretty clear. I've read the strategic plan pretty thoroughly. Understand what's at stake and what our charter is. One of our first orders of business is going to be to fully develop our brand platform so that we have a very consistent message across the community that resonates with everything from the entrepreneur, the small medium businesses, all the way up to enterprises. So, and we'll begin to more specifically break those down into targets like, by industry, by corridor, by business size, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot more to come in the next coming months. We'll be very, very busy, but in a good way. So I want to thank you all for giving me the time and the platform. I'm going to listen in for a little bit, and then I'll probably step out in about a half an hour. So,
Hey, well, welcome aboard.
Yeah, very
thank
good.
you, thank you so much.
When did you graduate from East High?
84.
84. Okay.
Yeah,
Year after you, Tom.
well,
I have two sons who graduated from East High, but
was one of them named Derek?
yes.
Derek and I swam together.
I thought I knew your name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Derek. He was fast.
Yeah, that's good.
Were you in the business school at Saunders?
No, actually, my undergraduate was in I call FADC. It was a school of graphic design, and so
okay.
I did graphic design and then computer graphics, which
Okay.
kind of makes me laugh when I think about computer graphics. Nowadays it's so much more broad. But
Oh yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, that was my undergraduate work, and but yeah, it's still I still paid for my bricks, and I still love the place. So I'm out there quite often.
Good.
Okay, so if any of you have the opportunity and can spend, half hour, an hour just chatting with Scott, I think, if he has the opportunity to fit that into his schedule, it would be well worth your time. I had a very great conversation with Scott, and I think the more perspectives he can get from different board members, the better he will be able to do what he's needing to do to move us to the next stage. So I would certainly strongly encourage that. And if you reach out to Scott, I'm sure he'll be able to find some time for you.
Yeah, but you can
We're
email us his contact information.
Yep, we'll do.
Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Great. Okay, so we'll move on to the main event here, which is the strategic plan. Before we do that, just let me say a couple of things. First, I'd like to, in advance of us getting to hopefully an approval of this, just thank Tom Argus for both his willingness to take this on, and I've as I mentioned before, I've known Tom for many years, so in various ways, and it's always a pleasure to be able to work with him. But for tasks like this, you really need someone who has done this enough times that they kind of know where the pitfalls and potholes are, and kind of avoid them. So I appreciate, Tom, your willingness to do this, and also to do this in a way that you weren't entirely comfortable with, because I know you would have much preferred to be in a room with everybody with a big whiteboard or something and be able to do this real time and interactively. So I know we've had to force you a little bit out of your comfort zone, but I think the results that you've accomplished here are great. So my thanks, and just really appreciate what you've done. Secondly, what we're doing here is kind of tough. Whatever analogy you want to use for it, we're racing down the road at 100 miles an hour, and we're trying to change the tires on the car while we're doing that. I mean, it's tough, but if you don't know where you're going, you don't know how to get there, and when you do get there, you don't know if you're where you want it to be. So I think the strategic plan is extremely important to us, and particularly the way it's structured, with a vision and a mission, and then pillars, which the mission is kind of the platform, if you will. The pillars are what holds up, and the vision is maybe where we're trying to get to. And I like the way that's structured, because I think it's very easily able to be visualized and help us understand what we need to do. It provides us with direction as board members so that we can be supportive of the staff as they try to move this organization forward to accomplish our vision. And I think the vision of equitable neighborhood wealth for existing and new businesses through strategic economic development is an important vision, made even more important as we've seen some of the things that have transpired over the last weeks and months. So equitable neighborhood wealth is a very, very important aspect of what we're trying to do. And the ways that we would do that are entirely different from what REDCO would have done a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So this is an actual wholesale transformation of what REDCO has done, but it's an important transformation, and it's critical for Rochester to be successful going forward, that REDCO is successful going forward. So having, kind of given you my pre-ramble, as people call it sometimes. Tom, would you like to take over and just
I think you're
describe what you'd like?
Yes, thank you very much for your words, and really appreciate the ramble. Very well done. So much so, I now move the adoption of the. No, we'll do some other. But thank you very much. First of all, this is not my work. I might have I channeled a lot of what the committee did. The committee was just a wonderful group to work with. We didn't know each other much before. I think we know each other a lot better now. And so DT and Dana and Michael and Willie and then Bea and Tracy and Maria, wonderful Maria. She is Maria, you are a prize as far as I'm concerned. You have given so much support.
Thank you.
And she's, I over the last number of months, so many times I would say, Maria, do you think you could do this? Oh yeah, no problem. I know how to do those things. She's been great. So,
That's Maria.
thank you very much. Now, I know you've all read it. I know you could all recite the mission and vision by heart. But I won't ask you to do that at this point. I just wanted to point out some key things to how the committee put this together. First thing is that to continue to understand that REDCO is 23 years old. However, we're also 9 months old. And that's the perspective that we are dealing with. We are old but young. And we are just taking baby steps at this point, even though we have this larger context. Secondly, that we have to learn kind of all over again as a board and as staff, how we are going to put REDCO on the map in the next 5 years through all sorts of things that we have no idea about the future. But this plan gives us a head start in being in charge of rather than the future. And that's a critical thing. Third thing is that the committee felt that as a plan, sure, we could have just gone ahead, just said, okay, here are the key things, here's the vision, mission, and pillars, and that's it. As you know, this is a 21 page document. It was written with the idea that you have new staff like Scott coming in. He doesn't have the history, he doesn't have the background, he doesn't have a sense of the culture. And so our idea here is to write a plan that has a lot more in it for the new people and the new entities that are going to be looking for it. So I hope you understand we are very context oriented in working out the mission. Having said that, one of the other things that we wanted to do was to be upfront, very transparent about the challenges that we have. And I know that as a new board member, I still am learning. I have these, oh my gosh, moments thinking about that's going to be our responsibility. For example, the whole issue that assuming we may not get any money from the city in the next whenever. Now we are on our own. The board is going to have to raise, and the staff is going to have to raise a lot of. I don't know if I signed up for that. That wasn't up front with me. But I think that we have to understand that that is going to be a role for the REDCO board, and that's in the plan. That's acknowledged in the plan. That's what I mean about being. So I'm just going to assume I could walk through this. I'd be very glad to walk through it all and highlight things, but I'm going to assume, DT has already told me, no, I can see her head. No. So
I think we all read it. I hope we all read it.
That's what I'm going to say. I'm assuming that you all read it. So I'm just going to open it up and see where you want to go with it. I think that there will be one change on it, and that it came as a result of the staff re-looking at this on page 2 in the paragraph that starts during 2019.
We're looking at the big plan right now.
Yeah, you're looking at it now on the screen. Go down to it will seek private and foundation support. We had in there, while still receiving various earmarked economic development funds from the city and the state, the staff felt we should take that out, and so it will say we will seek private and foundation.
Okay, that makes sense. Cause I looked at that too and thought about that.
Okay. So other than that, I've gotten a very nice note that I sent out to everybody from Sergio.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sergio. But other than that, I have not received any comments in terms of changes.
Yeah. So if I can speak to that, Tom. First of all, even though I was on the committee, you really did the yeoman's work, and I thought you did a great job in writing this up, taking the feedback and putting it together. I did notice a few little very minor things that don't take away from the substance of the plan. And also in your summary document, you had something about Cameron. I don't know who Cameron is, whether that was one of your little tricks to make sure we read it.
Yes, no. At the same time I'm doing this plan, I'm doing the plan for Cameron Neighborhood Center.
Oh, okay. So that just needs to be changed.
How it got in there, I don't know.
Okay. On page 7.
Page 7.
Yeah, you mentioned Del Gines and Rodney Sampson. You have them in twice, so one of them should come out. So paragraph, second italicized paragraph. Right. Second sentence from the bottom.
Very good. I see that. Yes, thank you.
So I will get to that later. So then on page 8, I think on the second line, there should be some commas in there. So you talk about unable to access traditional banking links, set of solutions, comma, however, comma.
Okay.
Correct. Okay.
Yep.
As I said, most of the stuff is minor. On
that's fine.
Page 9, I think I would take out the editorial about how many board members participated and not.
Okay.
I did participate, so I'm not saying that because I didn't, but I just think that's unnecessary.
All right.
And it's sort of a negative tone to that particular sentence.
Yeah. That was in my early years, in my early time of writing this.
Right. I know you were concerned about making sure we did give you feedback.
So I'm willing to take that out if everybody thinks that. But I agree with you. It's better
it's sort of like the dirty laundry.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, we'll take that out.
On page 12. Okay, I was really impressed as I was reading this that you're one of the few people who use comprise correctly until I got to page 12.
Okay.
And the typical way people use it is incorrect. You don't say comprised of. The definition of comprise includes of. So you say things comprise something or something comprises something. So that just needs to be fixed.
Can you tell me exactly on page?
Yeah, that's on the bottom, third from the bottom. Finally, our plan implementation.
Oh, yes,
Should
okay,
be, will comprise 4 basic elements.
right, I got it.
And then the next thing I saw was in your appendix on page 17. So you have some organizations here that are not referred to in the plan. Well, at least I missed seeing them referred to.
Yeah,
And then you have following that under the second appendix B. Let me see, is it B? Yeah, I'm sorry, on page 19, starting there. So you use the glossary, but then when you talk about some organizations, you don't put the acronyms there. So that just needs to be consistent, like Empire State Development, like Center for Urban Entrepreneurship further down. So it's just, you know, if you're going to have a glossary with the acronym, you should have the acronym in the text.
so for example, Center for Urban
Entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship should say
So you should just put Q
So
behind
put
that.
parentheses Q
Right.
after that, so
And
there's
Empire State Development, you know,
Okay.
ESD, right?
Okay,
So just small things, like I said, but I thought it's very well done. I think it's very clear. I think it's inspiring. I think the preamble, I think you're right that for this plan, we do need that preamble to get people to understand the context in which we operate and how we operated in the past. So I think that's helpful. The only other thing I would say is that we may, and I don't know if you want to put this in the plan, but I think we should revisit the plan every year, even though we won't start necessarily making, starting our next strategic plan, but we should every year take a look at it, make sure we're on track.
okay. So rather than a retreat in 2022.
Oh, no, we should have a retreat, you know, as we prepare. In fact, we should have a retreat every year, but at the retreat, maybe just discuss the plan and make sure everybody's, you know, refresh us and make sure we're on track.
I'm hoping that if we adopt this, and then we would have kind of a planning committee or an oversight committee.
Yeah.
That group would in fact do that, and you know, at some point during the year, give an updated report on where we
Yeah.
are. Yeah.
But excellent job. Our committee members did a good job, so
Yes.
thanks to them too, but particularly you for leading the effort.
Please do it. Plus DT, I said early on that we'd be done maybe by the end of summer, and Dana was incredulous. Oh, there's no way. Now we didn't quite make it. We were into September, but I hope Dana will give us a little.
Yeah. I think we were dealing with the whole bylaws thing, which kind of put us a little behind. So that's
right.
I think,
okay. All right. We have
yeah.
All right.
So I think you were actually on track.
Okay.
Yeah, we are. We are.
Plus, we didn't have to pay anybody to do this, right?
Right. Well, we never should.
Right.
I never believed in having outside people do the plan. You know, maybe facilitate the meeting discussing it, but the plan has to be the organization's plan. And you see a lot of, and you can tell the ones done by people outside a lot of times.
Right.
Well, technically you did meet the goal because the first day of fall is not.
Yeah, we still have 4 days, right?
That's true.
Yeah, Tom, this is Keith. I awesome job by you and the team. And maybe right there, Matt, that's an example. Words matter, and I think there are a lot of powerful words inside this plan. So and repeat it. So I think that's great. That the structure is great. I did not read the same critical missing commas, so I ain't no good at English sometimes. So but it's good to have somebody there. But I really thought you captured the team captured, you know, the overall you know what I thought we were going to do, but I thought it was a good honest assessment as well. But then there's always that but, right? But the only thing that as I was reading through, I noticed it and it might be deliberate, that we, you know, is one of the threats. I think it was
lack of collaboration. The word collaboration came up a little, and I'm not sure I saw some of that tackled in any of the pillars or the action items. That could be intentional, but could we be a catalyst for a little more collaboration? I can tell you, as an observer in my role in the community, I think that's one of the things this community desperately needs. There's a lot of great economic development activity, but boy, if we could spark that into the city. I thought it was pointed out very nicely, and again, maybe it's intentional that, hey, we have to kind of prove ourselves in the first 3 to 4 years here, and then maybe that's part of our next strategic plan, that makes sense to me too.
I think, Keith, one of the roles we play, whether it's articulated in the plan or not, is that role of trying to bring the organizations together. Fragmentation is a big issue in urban cities that are trying to make a difference. And if we can play that role to bring people together, as you suggested, and bring these different disparate programs and activities together, taking a leadership, part of that will be in terms of what Scott will be working on in terms of our branding, so people understand the role we're playing. But that's an excellent point you bring up. Whether it belongs to a plan or not, I'm not sure.
I thought, and again, I think you're right, Keith, that it does not specifically talk about economic development agencies, but I thought in 4.1, where we talk about partnering with investment partners, and in 4.3, where we talk about convening, collaborating, and coordinating with financial and funding agencies, I thought we approached that, but I'm wondering if
maybe we can add
instead of being specific about financial and funding agencies, or perhaps in addition to being focused on financial and funding agencies, we just need to add the word and economic development agencies, which would solve that, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it is sometimes difficult where these things all sit, and inside of a plan, and I right there with you, Dana, but again, my sometimes preference is the more overt on certain things, the better, and because it also then informs budgets and the work plan that Bay and his team will eventually need to execute on. And we use a phrase here at ESL, we didn't make it up, but the strategic plan is about maybe doing the right things, and then the budgets are about, are we doing them right? Are we doing things right? But so I see this as doing the right thing. So maybe it does belong more in the work plan, the budget and the expectations we have for the staff. But again, I the spirit's there. It's just, was there anything intentional over the last inside this plan? Again, I was fully prepared to hear that it's just maybe not part of the next 4 years, which is fine. That's we have to be good at what we don't do. I think that's one of the things that's the last thing I had on my notes is, I think this is a great roadmap, and we should use it, because what's most important for organizations, especially at the beginning, is knowing what you don't do as well as what you do. And we just have to stay disciplined around this, and that's focused on micro businesses inside the city, focused on neighborhoods, and creating equitable, diverse neighborhoods. I think that's awesome. We just have to remember that when we're asked to play a role in bringing a large company into town, and so
let other people pay for it. Dane, I think maybe that goes under number 4, maybe or Tom, number 4, like 4.6 or something, about coordinate and collaborate with other economic development organizations.
Well,
rather than with finance.
Yeah, I was thinking about 4.3. My thought was that when we talk about financial and funding agencies, to just include economic development agencies in that sentence.
Okay, rather than have its own line, that's fine.
Okay, quick question here, because I heard something that I think deeply disturbed me. You were saying that based upon what you're reading, you wouldn't think that REDCO would have a place in bringing in a large business?
I didn't say that.
No,
no, Mike. I said that. I think maybe I might have used that example too quickly, but I think based on this plan, I think GRE, the chamber, and others have a different role than we do at certain places, ESD and all that. I'm not suggesting we don't collaborate, but I read this to be more narrow in focus than I think we have been in the past.
Right.
Yeah, it's let me speak to that. It is narrow, and it's actually more intentional. You know,
Yeah,
statements are
targeted.
being made on behalf of the organization that have not been made in the past. So we'll use this as a guide, regardless of who's here. They'll know what direction we're going in. But it's not to say that we won't collaborate to help or to assist a larger corporation moving into the city, particularly as it relates to our corridors. You know, so if there's appropriate spaces on, any one of the cap ends of our corridors to fill an old warehouse, we're going to be right in that. But the convening part, REDCO can't solely alone accomplish any of those goals. So we need the city, we need the chambers, we need the GREs, and the county to help with that, and the state. And as a convener, which we've played a role in the past, that's what we're going to do. But it will be intentional work to do that.
Okay, so just let me ask some clarifying questions. So the first clarifying question is, I believe that one of the things that we were saying when we were going through this process earlier was that we were looking to be more affirmative in our action in working with those smaller businesses that we hadn't worked with before, but we weren't looking to be exclusionary because we still have an obligation to generate revenue because still got to make money, and the little guy ain't gonna make you the money you need that the big guy can make you. So we still, does that still make sense?
Yeah, what we said, I think last time, Michael, was that we were intentionally targeting developing the neighborhoods, but we were not going to forego opportunities to do something like in the downtown that made sense for us. I mean, we have to have a strategic screen to determine whether we should be involved in any particular opportunity, but we're not going to just say no to any, to all potential opportunities that aren't in neighborhoods. But a lot of those things can, as Keith alluded to, can be handled by some of those organizations.
Keith, does it sound like this document is inclusive of what Doctor just said?
Yes, I think it can be. I really looked at Pillar 4, and I do think that narrows the focus a little bit. Doesn't exclude other focuses, but I do think for us to be effective in Pillar 4, we do have to. I like the phrase you used, Doctor, the strategic screen, and not try to be all things to all people, but use this as a screen to say, are we really focused on all of our pillars? But Pillar 4 does call it out. It's the only place we're explicit that we're focused on a specific area of the economy.
And that's the neglected area because most of the economic development activities have been focused on downtown with some outlying. But if we're really going to make a difference to the city of Rochester so that everybody can participate in the economic fortunes of the city, then we have to take care of those neglected and underserved and under-resourced sectors of the economy. And no other organization is really doing that to the extent necessary.
No, I was just asking because it sounded like there was a disconnect, and and I just wanted to make sure there wasn't. But I get it. You ain't got to sell it. I just wanted to make sure, like, wait a minute, we aren't excluding anything, though. We're not opposed to making money. So
no. If the right opportunity comes downtown, it looks like it's going to create jobs for residents, not for people in where I live in West Henrietta or Henrietta, then yeah.
Okay.
But, they have to meet a certain set of criteria.
Right, and if there's a chance to get in on a deal that's going to allow REDCO to make money, we are not going to be adverse to getting on the deal.
And don't forget, part of what REDCO will be doing is to support its activities is raising money to help support those. And I always have to go back to BCDC because, they raised a lot of money. They got a lot of government support. And the partners that they work with support them. So that's one of the issues that's mentioned in here very subtly, I thought, in terms of the structure and some things that we have to do going forward.
Good.
I wanted to make a comment. First of all, Michael, I'm glad that you asked that question and then the conversation that we had around your question, because I was going to make a comment somehow in line with what you're saying, Michael. I've been involved in a number of strategic plans for my own company and other organizations. And I always make the comment, I mean, the strategic plan helps you to provide focus on what you should be doing and so on and so forth. But I always tell them there has to be an element in every strategic plan. I don't care whether it's written or not written. It's more to the behavior of the board or in us, is to be alert to opportunities.
Yes.
Okay. Because I've seen many cases where people, an opportunity is in front of them, say, "Oh, that's not in a strategic plan." Well, the strategic plan is to create businesses and provide for economic development. So I don't care what is written or not. It's those more of a behavior that we as a board need to adopt. And also that could be very helpful for Scott in his role to really understand that we are going to watch everything we can, and we are going to open our eyes to everything that is available. Okay, doesn't mean that we are going to be lost and without focus. This gives us focus.
Right.
In the way the plan is written, I think it's broad enough for us to allow us to move within the focus of the strategic plan, but still not shut down ideas that can be wonderful. And I think that's probably what you were referring to, Michael, and I really agree 100%. So it's more of an attitude or a culture that the board needs to adopt, always be on the alert for opportunities. I can tell you right now, and I've been in business, in the current business for 40 years. I know how we started and know where we are, but we didn't get from A to the Z according to the alphabet that we had prescribed at the beginning that we were going to follow. Okay, so we need to be that flexibility, which I think this plan gives us because the way it's written, but it has to allow us for that creativity and alert to opportunities that may come our way.
Yeah, Sergio, you're right on point. Your plan is a guide. It's a guide so that you don't just spend money on stuff you shouldn't spend money on. So you have some focus, but it's a guide, not a straitjacket.
Exactly.
And you always, Sergio's right on point. You always have to be alert. You have to do an environmental scan so that you're alert to opportunities, and also that you are able to read the weak signals that lead you to an opportunity before other people jump on
it. And Sergio, again, same here. I mean, we do a lot of strategic planning, but I think and I will be maybe a stickler, I will go back, maybe not worried about the commas and all that, but if we are serious or if we are intentional around Pillar 4 and something is outside of our core competency, we should be also very willing to refer that out to others that might not have the same focus on micro and small businesses and urban entrepreneurs. So I think that is the risk we might run with that attitude of we'll do what it takes, because if we believe in collaboration and we believe in Pillar 4, we might develop core competencies that require us to pass on something that looks good.
Maybe we can get a fee for passing it on.
Something like that. I think that's, and maybe we're in the weeds trying to create hypotheticals as to how this applies, but that to me is an illustration of what I meant by this, is that if we believe there's clutter in the economic development space and there are good partners that we can refer to, referring should be a very important piece of our decision making before taking it on.
Yep. And actually, maybe the word partner should be in there somewhere too. Partner with other organizations as needed.
I would not change the plan. I mean, I say it's more for us to
Yep.
have the attitude when we read that to know what it means. So
Yeah.
the minute that you change one thing, then you think of something that should be there,
Oh,
and then it
no.
becomes a rigid document.
Go
That
down the
doesn't know
rabbit
what you
hole.
want. So I think the way it is a great. But I like that because they give you that flexibility to move around the issues with focus. But the more work we're doing certain there, then the less we are going to lose. We are going to be just a slave to the words there, and it's not going to help.
No, I'm like, hey, we all had a plan for 2020, didn't we?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, and then life happens, right.
And some organizations are making money hand over fist in the era of COVID.
Yeah.
Can I jump into this? And I very much appreciate everything that everyone has said. I just want to draw attention to the reference in the plan to ROC 2034, the city's comprehensive plan.
Mhm.
It's already done, and part of that was a 2018 commercial corridor study.
Mhm.
So we already have opportunities here within a lot of work that other people have done. We don't have to go out and do another commercial corridor study. We already have it.
Right.
And I think the development of what in the plan was the theory of change really is very, very good. So part of this is, like you've all said, let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's break down the silos that this community loves to build and do the cross systems work. Let's be the process broker, not feel we have to be the power broker. So
There
we
you go.
pull everybody together. We are in the center of networks, and that gives us a lot of power. But we have to be intentional about it, very intentional. I think that the strategic plan helps to draw out that intentionality.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the strategic plan with the minor addition of adding a word or two in 4.3, I think it was, Dana.
Yes. All right, there's a motion to adopt the plan as presented with that minor change. So Matt, you look like you might be seconding, and then Sergio, you had your hand up. Did you have a question, or were you your second? Okay, was that a second, Matt? Okay. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion at this point? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Are there any abstentions? Seeing none, the plan is approved at this point. So yes.
Everyone, very good. Now, let me just say the next steps will be that I will do the minor revisions, get that back to Maria, who is the master of keeping the master plan here, and then we'll send it out completed for you all to have and keep. And then a lot of this is going to have to go back onto Dana in terms of organizing us as a board and to get all these things done.
Yeah.
So we'll look forward to your outstanding leadership, Dana, and moving us ahead in that regard.
Well, it's a team effort, so we will all obviously do our part, but this actually really helps provide some very specific marching orders, not just for the board, but obviously for Bea and his staff, so that as we move forward, we're moving in a purposeful way towards a specific destination. So great work, Matt.
I just wanted to, I didn't get a chance to comment earlier, just to say that I appreciate the tone of the plan, that it's really focused on transformation as opposed to transactions. And I think that's an important context for us to be thinking about in all of our work.
Yes, agreed. Okay, Bea, go ahead.
I just have two things, or three things really. I want to thank Tom again for his leadership and the committee and the whole board for going through this process. And I like the comment he made earlier. It's an old organization, but really we're 9 months in this work. So very new, and a lot has happened in those 9 months and continues to happen. So I thank everyone for their patience and just their dedication to this. Tom, thank you again. So two things that we have to do quickly, I wanted to inform the board we'll be putting out an RFP for construction management services to go along with the revitalized Rochester. And the reason for that, we're going to be working with a lot of new or businesses at various levels. And if they have a redevelopment project, you know, my goal is to make sure that they are compliant to not only the MWB, but everything that the state requires, because the money's coming from Empire State Development. This won't be an additional cost to REDCO. I'm bundling this in with any project. But this is, you know, construction management, anyone who deals with construction on a continuous basis, this is very important, keeping projects on time and on schedule, and keeping the costs low. And the other thing, I will be working on putting out some type of notice for law services. I really can't afford to put out an RFP or RFQ because of the time. So my goal is to put out a notice. I'm not really sure how we're going to word that yet. And then begin to start doing interviews and interviewing law firms that, you know, meet our needs and understand authorities' budget office rules. They have the ability to do research on the state level to find out if we can change our status and transactions. So I probably will be getting something out late next week for that, but I wanted to let the board know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other items to come before the board at this time?
No, I move we adjourn.
Okay, so a second?
I
Oh,
have
sorry.
I'm sorry. I have a suggestion or question or comment. In this picking up in the comment that Tom made before, there's a reference to the city comprehensive plan. Okay, and there's mention about the corridors that already have been studied since 2018. I think maybe it would be useful for the board if somebody from city or the Department of Planning at the city will make a presentation to us explaining where the corridors are, I mean, what the intent is with the corridors and at what point of that strategic of the city comprehensive plan really are what we should be focusing on. Okay.
Yeah, the range.
I think it will be a presentation by the staff from the city, whoever prepared that or can give us a good presentation. I think that would be very useful for us to then have that ingrained in our heads when we are making decisions and discussing about a plan. I mean, we can read the whole thing ourselves, but I think it's very this level of kind of a presentation for all of us to listen to.
I
I
agree.
think Doreen,
Yeah,
Kirk
Doreen
Meyer,
would be the one.
she would love to do that.
Yep.
And I did want to thank Sergio as well. He has been reviewing the RFP for construction management services. He knows a little bit about that, maybe 40 years worth of it. So he's been helping us with that RFP. And that's the kind of thing we want to do. As we have talent in this board, being able to use the talent we have in this board to help us, you know, get to the goals. So thanks, Sergio.
Happy to do that. But I think that this presentation will be important to us.
Okay,
So
And I'll work on locking Doreen down.
okay. So we had a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor? Okay, very good. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you,
your time.
everybody. Thanks
job.
again, Tom.